So today we're going to be talking about your self-tape and specifically editing the self-tape together. Now, within the past 2 years, you might have gotten very good at editing self-tapes, and you might be thinking to yourself, I do not need this video, and you might be right. I am going to simply show you some of the things that I typically use when I'm editing in iMovie. All of these things are transferable to Windows Movie Maker. If you've got a more powerful software like Premiere or something, this video will not necessarily be covering the how of doing that, but some of the concepts or some of the why might be applicable to Premiere. Specifically, we will look at starting a project. We will look at some of the basic editing functions. We'll talk title screens, transitions. We will look at audio. We will look at color correction, and then we're going to talk about exporting as well. We will briefly dive into the uploading experience on YouTube specifically, but there again, if you use a different service, if you use a different online platform such as Vimeo or something, same deal. It might not be very applicable in terms of the how, but maybe the why might be some interesting things for you. So let's jump into the video. I'm going to go ahead and start out by sharing my screen and showing you what we've got going on in iMovie. So this is my iMovie platform, and I'm going to open up Create New. We're going to go to a movie, and we now have just a blank, the world is open up to us, but we have 3 different things. These are very standard amongst whatever software platform you've got going on. Over here, you have a pane that is going to be your bank of media files. This is going to be any video or sound or photos that you drop in here. This is your preview panel. There are a couple of functions up here at the top that we will deal with later, but this is where you can hit spacebar at any time and see what you've been making. And then down here, this is our editing panel. This is anywhere that we're going to be going and cutting, pasting, splitting, and manipulating any of the media that we have made. So iMovie is a very drag and drop kind of a friendly place to be. So if I were to just show you my full screen, I will just go ahead and drag and drop over here. I've got a clip that I made for the rep in St. Louis some time ago, and I'm just going to, whoops, I don't need to show it to you just yet, but I will just go ahead and drag and drop that over here. It automatically like plops it in, okay? And one thing that I'm gonna go ahead and do a while and kind of show you is this. Now, sometimes iMovie has a bit of a tweak or like a quirk, and sometimes it does not save in the proper format. So plant this seed, but I have a special clip that might solve a problem if you have something that is not saving to 1080p. Okay, so I'll be saving this for the export, but let me show you what I will do for that if perhaps you fall into this camp. Okay. We're going to go back into iMovie at this point, okay? And now that we're back here, I'm going to just go ahead and pull this down into my editing pane down here. Okay, so now that we've got the basic building blocks that we want to be dealing with, okay? Within editing functions, it's good for you to try to get your clip in as few takes as possible. And really, in an ideal situation, this was a monologue song kind of a package. And I did get one full take of this that I enjoyed and that I was happy to submit. If perhaps that's not you, then you might already at this stage be pulling in multiple clips in order to sew them together. If perhaps you've got a monologue and a song, or you've got 2 songs and they've been coming from different places. So that might be something that you will have been playing around with already. But let's say, for example, let's talk about some right-click functions. So first of all, if I were to right-click on the video itself, we've got a couple of things that are very handy for us, okay? And first of all, we might want to be detaching audio. We might want to be trimming to playhead. But the thing actually that I split clip, I need to drag my cursor over here. So you'll see my slider, which is going to be my head. Okay, if I were to click anywhere in the video, I'm just picking an arbitrary place. Oh, you look really great there, Brad. Okay, and I were to right click on that again, I could just go through and split clip that right there. Okay, and then it would split it into two separate videos. Now, if I were to just play that through, it would right now seem as one. Okay, so it just went straight on through. Okay, but from there, I actually could go through and manipulate these in any direction I want. Now, something to keep in mind is that even though you've made a trim, actually iMovie does kind of maintain the integrity of the whole clip. So within these two, I could actually still now go through and pull out both in either direction. So that's something that you might need. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this second one, and I'm just gonna make sure I've got the entirety of my other clip kind of pulled out. Okay. The other thing that you may want to think about is you probably won't need to add any freeze frame, but you might want to trim to playhead if you're kind of going through, particularly like at the beginnings or ends of things, and you're like, all right, so from the beginning, I'm not even in the frame yet. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Still there. And this is good. So I've been using my space bar to be starting and stopping. At that point, then I can go back to that head, to the playhead, and then go just trim to playhead. And then it'll kind of just bring me right there. So that's another little thing that might be helpful for you. So, and then the final right click function that I will just show you right now and we'll deal with later, you might need this detach audio, which is actually going to separate the video from the audio. Okay, I'm going to save that for just a minute. Okay, because it might just make it easier. But this right click function, this is where these things happen. Okay. All right, so now I'm a proponent of keeping things as concise as possible, because think about the person watching this. They could stop watching this video at any time. So I really don't think that this is the time to add an elaborate intro. You kind of want to get down to business as if you were walking into the room and sharing your material as succinctly and concisely and quickly as possible. So when we're talking about title screens, so let's transition over to our next topic, which is going to be title screens. I'm going to go on up here to title. And same type of a deal. If I click on this, I can then use some drag and drop features in order to get a title for my video. I don't like this to be too flashy. I tend to like this one in the lower right-hand corner. There is a couple of other options that are like lower left. But again, these animations, they are not flashy and they don't last very long. So I'm going to actually just click this. I'm going to drag and drop it down here. And now it's down here. If I were to click on that there and then go on up here, I can edit this right here up at the top. Now you have a couple of different options and you can choose whatever is your preference, but you might choose to just go ahead and put your name there as well as your selections. You could, if this is like you'd prefer to keep the slate this consistent, like with what you're saying, you could do that as well. So I might put like Bradley J. Behrmann, and I'm going to be singing the song Roadkill from the Great American Trailer Park Musical. This was an audition for Orin Scrivello, DDS, and Little Shop of Horrors. So wanted to be a little manic and a little silly and a little character actor. So this happens to have another slate, excuse me, this slate happens to have another component of this is the whole package. And so I might choose to go ahead and put that title as well. This is going to be a monologue from The Little Dog Laughed. Or I could go through and kind of see when I transition to that material. You know how and I could go and just add another title later, and then here take away this and do The Little Dog Laughed down here. So I could do that if I wanted to. Again, it's whatever feels right for you. That formatting might be a little weird, so I might choose to do something else, or maybe even not include it at all. So that's totally your prerogative. So I would recommend keeping, in short, I would recommend keeping the title cards as succinct as possible. All right. Now, while we're here and while we're in this title card kind of a mode, let's talk about credits. In the same way that you want to say thank you and walk out of the room, I'm a proponent of making your ending credits as succinct as possible as well. So I'm actually going to go back up here. I kind of like this one and it would stay consistent. If I pull this down, I now have, this is within a black background and I'm able to edit this from here. So if I were to edit this, oftentimes I will end up saying either thank you, and then I would include some contact info down here to direct them to my website or some other information that they might want. You could use whatever format you'd like, but I do like to not only link this in the video that I post, but I like to make sure that they know how to find more information if they want. And my website happens to be like very succinct. And so it's easy to kind of look at and type into a browser. So even if I don't have a link in front of me, I want them to know that there's more out there and they should come and seek it. So that is then the title and the credits. But let's get a little bit fancier, because if I'm finishing this out, I want, oh, I probably should edit that. That's ghastly. Okay. I'm just going to drag that up to the, what's my final line? I don't know. And that is the final line. So now, but that's kind of like abrupt going to the credits. So I'm going to just go over here to the transitions tab all the way up at the top. Since I'm going to a black background, I'm actually just going to drag the fade to black. This happens to be my preference, and that will pop down a transition for you there. You're able to adjust the setting of how long this actually lasts. I've double clicked on that and it will allow me to affect that duration. So I could make it longer, but that's going to then eat up time on either side of that. So kind of plan for that transition to spread out on either side of whatever you are doing. So if I were to make that 2 seconds, for example, and apply, is what it would be like. I don't know. And then it takes just a second longer. So I would say actually that transition, it actually, it transitioned out the animation that was in the final credit. So I'm actually just going to take this back to 1 and I'm fine with that. So if I got that here, I don't know. And now I still get a little bit of that transition. So I also want to have a little bit of I don't like at the top of a video to kind of come into it too abruptly either. So if like, here's the top of the video. Hi, my name is Bradley. Not bad, not bad, but I want to put something up at the front. If I were to drag this transition to there. Hi, my name is Bradley. Now I have that. However, what if I wanted to put just a little bit more of a buffer in there? I could go over to this backgrounds tab and I could literally put in some black background time that would give me just a little bit of space. I'm probably going to try to just make this as small as possible. Will this let me do that? Yeah. So I've got about a 2-second black. Then if I were to put the transition, excuse me, if I were to put the title over the transition, then it kind of creates a nice little, here I am, and now here's my picture. So this is what that might look like, and we can futz with it from there. Rolling. Hi, my name is Bradley. This is Roadkill from the. So this allows the kind of the title graphics to come up. It then kind of comes into the picture. This is not essential, but it is something that will perhaps help kind of ease you in quickly, but tastefully. The other thing to think about is that perhaps one word of caution before we navigate into our next section with audio is that with these transitions, you don't want to be making anything too funny or flashy. I would actually kind of really just stick within these first few transitions. I'm sorry if my my preview pane is going crazy, but this first one is basically just a crossfade. This first one is a fade across dissolve. This one is across fade. This is going to be a black. This one will be going to white, okay? But then after that, you start getting into kind of the slightly too flashy ones. So I would probably stay within the cross dissolve, the cross blur, the fade to black, or the fade to white. Just my 2 cents. So now let's talk audio. So when we talk about our audio, here's what I've got to share with you. Probably you have recorded an audio to a device, and that audio on the device, like your phone or the camera, is probably going to be good for the self-tape that you want. However, it's possible that you might either be recording your audio from a different device, or maybe you have better audio than you do video, and so you want to make sure that you showcase just how good your voice is, or how kind of what your setup is and what your home capabilities are. Okay, this is not essential that you record in 2 different places, but it's possible. What I'm saying is that you might be bringing in your audio from somewhere else. If that's the case, then you definitely want to detach this audio. And so there again, that's a right-click function. I'm going to go down here, detach this audio, and then it suddenly becomes its own waveform. It's in a green bar, and then you can edit it from there. Now, something to keep in mind, in the same way that I'm trying at the beginning to ease us visually into the video, I'd also like to ease us in sonically to the video, because even if my picture's kind of coming in, if you've got a lot of ambient noise in the room where you're recording, it might be nothing, and then you might have something like that. So I would recommend actually that you go down here and drag this fade and just kind of bring it up just in 1 or 2 seconds. It does not need to be a lot, but our ears won't go, what? As soon as your picture starts coming up. It is rather helpful. You can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, and same type of a deal to kind of link what my eyes and my ears are seeing and hearing is I think a good thing. Alrighty, so at this point, I have kind of led my listener, my viewer in. Let's see what that all sounds like together and looks like together.
Hi, my name is Bradley. This is Roadkill from the Great American Trailer Park Musical.
Now, that time through, I feel like my greeting on high actually got cut off a little bit, so I was too enthusiastic. I'm going to take this back to 1 second.
Hi, my name is Brad.
It's still perhaps a bit. I wonder if I could, I'm going to actually futz with this with the video. I'm going to give the video a little bit more room, and then we'll go from there and see what happens.
Hi, my name is Bradley. This is Roadkill from the Great American Trailer Park Musical.
I'm pleased with the sound. I'm going to scooch my title back over to kind of where it started before, so that it starts in the black and then comes to me. Okay, so I'm pleased with that. So the other thing to think about is that, like I mentioned, sometimes your background noise is going to come through loud and clear, and that might not be what we want. So I'm going to actually go up to the upper right over that preview pane. If I head on up here and I go to my little volume thing right there, click on that. Oops, I'm so sorry. I need to actually click on the sound, and then I'll have the options over here. And then I click on that. What you might want to think about is like how much sound is coming through to begin with, okay? In terms of my sound is right now at 100%, but I could take it down. You see my waveform adjusting as I make choices here. That's a possibility. Okay, I'm going to take this back. Or I could go over. I could go over what that is. So I'm at 100%. Holy cow, 229%. You see me capping out in the red down there. Okay, I'm going to take this back to 100. Whoops. 114 is good. But something to ponder, if I were to head over here, I've lost it for a second. If I go to this waveform icon that's right next to it, I actually have the possibility to reduce the background noise and reduce it by how much. This will actually help to take away some of the partials of that waveform. Basically takes out some of like the really high and the really low of this. in order to take out perhaps an air conditioner, a blower, a distant noise, maybe some of the, like, the low hums of a room. This will affect your sound, but sometimes it is worth it. So for example, if I were to reduce background noise, if you watch, you can either watch the waveform or watch what I'm doing, okay? And then I can adjust how much this is gonna affect that in there, okay? So if I were to go back in here, you might hear a difference.
Hi, my name is Bradley. This is Roadkill from the Great American.
The in between, like when I'm silent, it's just actually a touch cleaner. I do tend to record with everything off, so that you might be that way as well. If you're recording in an apartment or a home and you have control of these things, it is like shut off that blower, shut off that fan. If you can, even like shut off lights sometimes, like the lights that you're not using, because those do tend to put a hum into things, okay? It's something to ponder, okay? I guess the final thing that I will mention in audio is that if you are bringing in audio from a different place, same type of video, you're just gonna drag and drop over from wherever you are bringing that, okay? So let's carry on. Let's head on to color correction and talk if you want to be playing around with any of the vivid or the brightness or the contrast that's happening. And so for that, we're going to actually head to these two buttons that are over here. Okay, right now I'm going to go back down. I'm going to click on my video, the video portion of what we're editing, so that we know that we're talking about that. Now you have a couple of options within color balance. I don't hate what I see actually, so you can certainly just literally send in what you have recorded, and no harm, no foul. There is no shame in that, okay? But a couple of things, if you want to just do an automatic correction of some things, then you would go to this auto. If you wanted to go to kind of visually link together several things that you might have recorded at perhaps different times of day, like are you getting some slightly different light within the room, or did you move, did you like put on a slightly different outfit, did you your lighting, did you adjust your lighting somehow? This is what you would do, and you would go and match color to other clips within the within what you're editing. I don't have anything else to within this clip to edit against, so I actually don't need to do that. I'm going to click that there. Now you could go into white balance and you could start to make fine-tune things with how I'm white balanced. You could also do into skin tone balance and try to do some balancing in there. I don't oftentimes work within these functions, but I do sometimes go through in my artist's palette right here. If you click on that, I do sometimes play around in here. I'm going to start over here on the right and I'll work my way over to the left. So first of all, this slider is going to take you from the cool to the warm. Right now it is set at 0, but if I slid this over to the left, you see me getting cooler, 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 cooler. If I slide over to the other side, I'm getting warmer, 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 warmer. It's possible that you might want the general feel of your audition to be one or the other, but more than likely, you probably will want to just be somewhere in the middle. I tend to gravitate to warmer light, and so I will sometimes just slide this over ever so slightly. The things that we're doing in this paint are just giving a little more life. We actually don't want it to feel unnatural by and large, unless you have a special audition that you're doing. But I tend to kind of like just bump these just ever so slightly. This is going to help with my saturation. I'm moving on to the second slider. This second slider will either give us a very saturated color, or it'll completely wash it out all the way to black and white. There again, if I want to play around and provide some specialty, I might slide this a lot, but I probably will only want to do a little bit. And I generally, again, as I'm drawn to warmer, I sometimes am drawn to slightly more saturated. It does tend to make the viewer, or I should say the subject of the video, just a little more alive. So I might slide this over ever so slightly, but I still look like me. So that's an important thing to think about. Now, this next slide might require a little bit of chit chat, but basically this is another way that you can adjust the white and the dark levels. So this makes the level of whatever is your brightest point and allows you to be able to adjust that. So the first thing to start with is the outside sliders. If I were to come to this one and I were to start making this is going to basically make all my bright colors brighter. And the one on the left will make my dark colors darker, okay? So if I were to take this all the way, that blue shirt suddenly becomes black. If I were to take this all the way, probably the shine on my forehead and my forearm, you can say, I think the brightest point in this is like right here on my forearm. So that's gonna go, that would just disappear into whiteness, okay? So what I'm getting at is that you can bump this in the direction that helps you. It's not that you need to go in any one direction because everything's going to be different. Your take on this and your setting and your light levels for your video will be different. But if you might want this to feel a little bit brighter in some places, okay, or a dimmer, okay, or more towards the black, okay. I'm actually going to take, I do think that I want to take this because I see this white, kind of like white shadow because I've got a two light setup. There is kind of a brightness in my shadow back there. And I'm actually going to just try to like tune that down just a little bit. So I'm going to take that to there. I'm going to take this, just again, bumping it a little bit to the left. You got to just play with it until you find something that you like. Then with the in-betweens, these are the things that you can slide to your heart's content and find the sweet spot, okay? From where we've just been, I'm kind of sliding this to the left and I feel that looks vibrant. I also, if I were to play, I feel I still look like myself, but perhaps just like all of the colors that are in this are the most vivid versions of that. Here again, play with your own video to figure out what is best for you. Okay. So now that I'm pleased with that, and geez, I'm sure that people are just loving this preview pane. Okay. Now I'm pleased with this. What you will of course want to do is play it through and make sure that everything is very good and to your standards for this. Right now, I'm going to say this is good for me. Okay, so now once I'm done, I'm going to head all the way up to the right-hand corner and it's time to export. So I'm going to do a share. And then what I want to do is a file. From here, this will pop up this screen. I would probably want to save this as this actually right now, it really doesn't matter. This file name is kind of for you. I would say that by and large, you will not be sending actual files to people or to companies. So this is more for you, but I would still file it as something that is easy for you to find. So I would maybe put like Bradley J. Behrmann, St. Louis Rep Audition, because this was what that was for. Okay, now here's the thing. Remember back when we were talking about the media and we were dragging and dropping into our media preview pane. Here's the deal. Most of your phones that you will be recording this to will be recording your video in 1080p. That is what you want. Some of them might have 720, but by and large, I'm going to guess that it's 1080. However, sometimes this is a quirk of iMovie is that it will not allow you to save this at this step as 1080. Sometimes it just restricts you to 720, which is more of a medium resolution. If this happens, there is a video that I have found. This has happened to me basically a couple of times, and it frustrated me enough that I went seeking the answer online. And there is a video clip that you can kind of drop in, and it is a bit of a magic video that helps that format it correctly for this stage. If perhaps you've gotten to this part of the editing and you try to export this and you say, oh man, it was 720, all is not lost. Just make a new project, go in, drop in the video that I'm going to link to this video of the pink swirls. Go ahead and then just copy paste all of your work into the new project, and this should work. Okay. You could also check this earlier in the project. If you make this and you just try to export this immediately, kind of before you've done any editing, and it has 720 right off the bat, then you know you need to go in and drop that special video in order to make this to 1080. But the gist is you want this to be as quality of a product as possible. All right, enough chit chat. I'm going to go to next. And I'm going to save this actually just on the desktop. Okay, Boop. It's going to do that. It's going to give me a nice little activity button over here as it goes through and saves. Okay, so now that we have done that, you will see, I'm just actually going to show you while this is doing its thing, I'm going to go back into projects. Oh, by the way, once you kind of navigate out of projects, it will want to save the project. What you're saving is a file to like put somewhere else, but iMovie keeps everything together as projects. So I'm going to actually save this as the same gosh darn thing, St. Louis Rep Audition. Okay, now I'm back. All right, so I have a whole host of other things that I could show you, but actually now that we're looking at it, this is it. Okay, I'm going to show you Caitlin's. This is Caitlen Richison. Okay, similar type of a thing. She's done the same thing, but this is closer to what you will have been doing for class.
Hello, my name is Caitlen Richison, and I will be singing Here You Come Again, originally sung by Dolly Parton. All you gotta do is smile and smile, and there go all my defenses. Just leave it up to you, and in a little while, you're messing up my mind and filling up my senses. Here you come again, looking better than a body has a right to, and shaking me up so that all I really know is here you come again. And here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go.
Check out CaitlinJoy.com. All right, so now what we have done is I've taken you through the steps that I usually use in order to submit a self-tape. Honestly, once you have gotten adept at whatever program you're using, and there's not been much, if you will look around, there's not been a ton of editing, but you will get very quick at this. And that is kind of the point, is to be able to generate the audition, edit the audition, and then send it off to the company, the casting director, the agency, as quickly as possible. The important thing is to get the thing in their hands. So there's not a ton of bells and whistles associated with it. Now, in the next part of the next and last part of this video, I will head on over to YouTube so that you can just scope out I can point out a couple of things. Again, I'm sure by this point you are pretty adept at posting things to YouTube, but I want to just point out a couple of things that might be particularly helpful to you. Okay, so now let's share back on over to, heading over to Chrome. I'm going to go over here. I am right now within my channel. I'm going to upload my video. I actually am just going to, I don't think I can just drag and drop this. This is on my desktop, so I'm going to do it if I can. Oh, nope. Okay, maybe Zoom is interfering with that just a wee bit. On my desktop, I've got my Bradley J. Behrmann. It's going to be thinking about it, and then it's going to take me to a couple of different things. Now I have a preset thing that I do for other videos, so I'm actually going to delete the large majority of this. Okay, but that's another function that we could talk about at some point. So what I would do is make sure that in the title of your video, you definitely have your name and what you are auditioning for. So here again, I'm going to make sure that this says Bradley J. Behrmann, St. Louis Rep Audition. Now you could go through and you could say what you're singing. If this is going to be just a general 32 and this, or my like a general package that just lived somewhere on the internet ready to send off, I could go through and I could just say roadkill and if I wanted it to be that. This happens to be particular, so I'm actually going to go back to my St. Louis rep audition, and down here under the description, then I'm going to say roadkill from the Great American Trailer Park Musical, and then I'm going to put monologue from Little Dog Laughed. Now, really, you don't have to put, here again, you don't have to put a lot more than this. I do like to put some links so that they know how to get in touch with me. But this is a place to just kind of, again, give a little bit more of a, if you'd like to see more, please do, okay? Now, this video, we're not really going into thumbnails, but this would be the opportunity that if you were wanting to make a unique thumbnail for this in Canva, for example, and you know, like something with your name and something with what, again, like a title, more of a title card kind of a thing. I would encourage you to think about doing that, but it is not essential. This happens to, like the thumbnail that is generated for some reason, I'm not getting the other options right now in this view, but the one that they have created over here, I'm kind of okay with, so we can go with that. If I were to cruise down here, don't need it to be for playlists. It's probably not going to be kids specific, so I wouldn't mess with that either. I do have a couple of tags that are naturally on my videos. I just have done that in the settings tab. But when we get on over here to visibility next, oh, sorry, no, it's not made for kids. Now next, there we go. This is going to be whether I want to do subtitles and screens and things. You could, here again, you could go in and like add an end screen, but that's typically for content creators who are like, head on over to this other video. You could do this, but more than likely, I bet that your person is probably not going to click through to other things. I might be wrong, but maybe not. But what I'm getting at is over here at next. There's no copyright infringement. Whew, what a relief. You want this to be an unlisted. This is actually my default all the time. I always upload things to unlisted, even if I'm going to make it public. It just helps to save me from any whoopsies, and I'm able to review the video in YouTube exactly as I want it before I send it. But I'm sure you've heard this from other people before. But yeah, these audition videos, unless you are posting it to your website specifically, it's probably going to be something that you want to just keep behind a security wall so that it's not getting sent out all over the place. You want to be able to send this to a specific person and for them to be able to see it without other eyes gazing at it or making comments on it or even like getting downloaded and used somehow. Okay, so once I save all of this, it will send me to here. Then I can go through and I can link this. Then I can go through and send this link to other people. Okay. Alrighty. I have gone through my list of editings that I have, of edit functions that I wanted to show you today. I've answered a couple of things regarding YouTube and shown you kind of what I do for that. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding posting your self-tapes. I encourage you to have a great time, and hopefully within the past 2 years, this has become perhaps a slightly less uncomfortable proposition as it might have been in the pre-pandemic world. But anyway, happy taping, happy self-taping, happy editing. See you later.